All right, ready for a deep dive into a source you might not expect.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We're talking ancient wisdom for modern entrepreneurs.
Interesting.
Straight from, get this, the book of Leviticus.
Wow. Okay, I'm intrigued.
You wanted to know how these,
Yeah.
seemingly ancient religious texts could actually be relevant to entrepreneurship today.
Makes sense?
So we're diving into Leviticus 27,
Okay.
focusing on the concepts of vows and tithes and resource management.
I can already see where this is going.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
You do.
What do these, ancient laws about vows
Yeah.
and tithes have to do with building a successful business in the 21st century?
Good question.
Well, that's where you come in.
All right, let's do it.
You've uncovered some surprising insights
Oh, I think so.
and connections that might just change the way we think about commitment
And generosity.
and
Yeah,
leadership.
definitely.
So Leviticus 27
Okay.
kicks off by talking about vows, serious promises made to God.
Mm-hmm.
So how does this
Right.
translate into the world of entrepreneurship?
Well, you see, vows in this context represent the importance of making
I
and
get.
keeping commitments.
Yeah.
Think about it. For an entrepreneur, your word is your bond.
Absolutely.
Whether it's a promise to a client, a deadline for a project, or a commitment to your team.
Yeah.
Reliability is absolutely key for building trust
Right.
and credibility.
Makes sense.
Like when you promise a client
It's like,
a deliverable by a certain date,
yeah.
you absolutely have to follow through.
Right.
Or you risk damaging that relationship and your reputation.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So it's about having that, rock solid foundation.
Yeah.
That unwavering belief in what you're doing.
It is.
Even when things get tough,
Mm-hmm.
you don't just give up,
No.
You've made this commitment
All right.
and you're going to see it through.
Absolutely. And in Leviticus,
Yeah.
these vows often involve sacrifice. People were dedicating their time, their possessions, their very livelihoods
Oh, wow.
to something bigger than themselves.
That's powerful.
That resonates with the entrepreneurial journey, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all about taking risks.
Yes.
Putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
And often sacrificing that immediate comfort for the potential of something greater
Mm-hmm.
down the line.
Down the road, yeah.
Like that famous saying, the greatest danger for most of us is not that our aim is too high and we miss it,
Oh, I like this one.
but that it is too low and we reach it.
Oh, that's good.
Entrepreneurs are always aiming high,
Yeah.
pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
even if it means
Right.
making sacrifices along the way.
Right. And, all those sacrifices,
Yeah.
that dedication, they build credibility,
They do.
just like in ancient times.
Yeah.
Someone made a vow.
Right.
Everyone knew they meant business.
They were serious.
Today, when an entrepreneur consistently demonstrates that level of commitment,
Yeah.
it builds trust with investors, partners, and customers.
Oh, for sure.
It shows that you're not just in it for a quick buck,
Right.
but that you're here to stay.
It shows you're serious.
And you're serious about making a difference.
Absolutely. So we've got this intense level of commitment. There's
Yeah.
almost like
A
a
vow.
sacred vow to your mission.
It is. It is.
What about this idea of tithes?
Okay.
I'll admit, this one feels a bit trickier
Yeah.
to connect to the business world.
Right.
It's giving a portion of your earnings back.
Okay.
Does that just mean charitable donations?
It's interesting you bring up charitable donations.
Yeah.
While those are certainly important,
Uh-huh.
the concept of tithing in Leviticus
Yeah.
points to something much deeper.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging that your success isn't solely your own doing.
Right.
There's something bigger at play. Whether you call it divine providence
Okay.
or the interconnectedness of the community.
So it's like acknowledging
Right.
that you're part of a larger system,
Yeah.
that your success is dependent on others,
Yes.
and that you have a responsibility to give back to that system.
Precisely.
Okay.
And for an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
that could mean supporting the community that sustains your business,
Right.
investing in your employees' well-being,
Uh-huh.
or even advocating for policies that create
Okay.
a more level playing field for everyone.
So it's not just about,
It's about recognizing
yeah,
that your business doesn't exist in a vacuum.
it takes a village.
It's embedded in a web of relationships and resources.
So true.
And contributing to the health of that ecosystem
Right.
ultimately benefits everyone,
Including your business.
including your business, yes.
I'm starting to see how this connects to the growing movement
Oh, yeah.
towards conscious capitalism and businesses with a social mission.
Absolutely.
It's not just about extracting profits.
It's not.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of everything
Yes.
and using your business as a force for good.
Yes, exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here,
I think so.
connecting these seemingly ancient concepts to the modern entrepreneurial landscape.
We have.
But we're just getting started.
Oh.
The next part of this deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to explore even more practical examples of how these principles play out in the real world
That sounds good.
and what it really means to lead with integrity
Okay.
and build a business that's not just successful,
Mm-hmm.
but truly leaves a positive legacy.
Sounds great. I'm excited.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll get into the nitty-gritty
Okay.
of how to put these Levitical principles into action
All right.
in your own entrepreneurial journey.
Can't wait. Welcome back to our deep dive into entrepreneurial wisdom from the book of Leviticus.
All right, so in part 1,
Mm-hmm.
we unpack some pretty profound ideas from Leviticus 27.
I did.
Unwavering commitment, like those ancient vows.
Yes.
Generosity that goes beyond just donations.
Right.
And treating all your resources as something sacred, not to be squandered.
It's true.
And we touched on how those principles actually align with a
Yeah.
lot of the trends we're seeing in business today.
I do. Yeah.
But let's get more specific.
Yeah.
How do these ancient ideas play out
Wow.
in the real world
Mm-hmm.
for entrepreneurs?
Good question.
In part 1, we talked about how commitment,
Right.
in the context of Leviticus,
Mm-hmm.
is about more than just meeting deadlines.
For sure.
It's about that deep dedication to your mission,
Right.
even when things get rough.
Even when things get tough. Yeah.
How can entrepreneurs cultivate that kind of culture
Wow.
within their companies?
Yeah.
Where everyone's all in.
It goes beyond just hiring the right people.
Okay.
It's about creating an environment where people feel genuinely
Yeah.
valued, respected,
Mhm.
and empowered to contribute their best. It's about fostering that sense of shared purpose
Right.
that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
making sure everyone understands the why behind the work.
Right. Because when you believe in what you're doing,
Yes,
it's not just a job anymore. You're
Right.
part of something.
exactly.
Uh-huh.
And that sense of belonging, of working towards a common goal, that's what fuels that deep commitment.
It makes sense.
And it's about leadership, too.
Right.
It starts at the top.
Right.
When leaders walk the talk, when they
Mhm.
demonstrate that same unwavering commitment
Yeah.
to the company's mission and values,
Right.
it inspires others to follow suit.
Okay. So commitment is about creating that shared purpose
Yeah.
and leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
What about generosity?
Okay.
We talked about how in Leviticus,
Right.
it's about acknowledging that your success isn't solely your own doing.
It's true.
How can entrepreneurs bake that into their everyday operations?
It's about beyond just writing a check to a charity at the end of the year, looking beyond profits and seeing your business as a force for good in the world.
Okay.
It could be as simple as offering employees
Yeah.
flexible schedules to accommodate family needs,
Okay.
or creating a mentorship program
Right.
for underrepresented entrepreneurs in your industry.
I love those examples
Right.
because they're not just about giving money.
Right.
They're about sharing your resources and expertise
Exactly.
in a way that truly empowers others.
And it's about looking at your supply chain.
Okay.
Are you sourcing materials ethically?
Oh, that's a good one.
Are you paying your suppliers fair wages?
Yeah.
Are you supporting local businesses?
Those are great points.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, think globally, act locally.
Yes.
You can have a global vision for your business,
Mhm.
but the real impact
Right.
often starts with those small everyday decisions.
And those decisions send a message to your customers,
They do.
even your competitors.
Wow.
They show that you're not just about maximizing profit,
Right.
but that you're committed to operating in a way that benefits everyone involved.
Okay, so generosity is about
It's about,
weaving ethical considerations into every aspect of your business.
Yes.
What about this idea of consecrated property?
Right.
We talked about how it's about treating all your resources,
Mm-hmm.
financial, human, environmental,
You're right.
as something precious, not to be squandered.
Right.
But how does that translate into concrete actions
It's
for a modern entrepreneur?
moving beyond that short-term mindset of maximizing profits at all costs
Fine.
and thinking about the long-term sustainability of your business.
No.
Are you investing in renewable energy sources?
Yeah.
Are you minimizing waste and pollution?
Right.
Are you creating products that are built to last?
It's almost like flipping the script
It is.
on how we traditionally view success in business.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about how much money you're making today,
Okay.
but how you're ensuring the well-being of your company, your community, and the planet for years to come. And it's about transparency.
Yeah.
Consumers are becoming
More savvy.
increasingly savvy
Yeah.
and are demanding more from the businesses they support.
They are.
They want to know where their products are coming from, how they're made, and what impact they're having on the world.
They want to know what's going on.
So it's not enough to just be doing the right thing
Right.
behind closed doors.
It is not.
You have to be open about your practices
You do.
and willing to be held accountable.
Absolutely. Transparency builds trust.
It does.
It shows your customers you have nothing to hide.
Right.
And that you're genuinely committed to doing business in a way that's ethical and sustainable.
This all ties back to that idea of seeing your business as part of a larger ecosystem,
Yes.
as we discussed in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just an island operating in isolation.
Right.
Your actions have ripple effects
Yes, they do.
that impact the lives of your employees, your suppliers, your customers,
It's all connected.
your community, and the environment. And recognizing that interconnectedness, taking responsibility for your impact on the world around you.
It's important.
That's what elevates your business beyond just a profit-making machine.
It does.
It becomes a force for positive change.
a force for good.
I love that.
It's a powerful message.
And it's a powerful message for entrepreneurs to hear.
It is.
You can be successful
Yes.
and ethical.
Yeah.
You can make a profit
You can.
and make a difference.
Yes, it's not an either proposition.
And honestly, I think consumers are craving that authenticity.
They are.
They want to support businesses that are aligned with their values,
Yes.
businesses that are doing good in the world.
That's what they want.
Okay, so we've talked about commitment, generosity, and responsible stewardship.
We have.
But in the real world,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship isn't always smooth sailing.
Nope.
There are going to be mistakes, setbacks,
Yeah.
maybe even outright failures.
That's where the concept of redemption comes in,
Okay.
which we touched on briefly in part 1.
Yeah.
Leviticus offers this idea that even when we mess up,
We're human.
even when we stray from the path,
Right.
there's always the possibility of turning things around.
So it's not about being perfect.
No,
It's about how you respond
it is.
when you fall short.
When you fall short.
It's about having the humility to acknowledge your mistakes,
Yes.
the courage to take responsibility for your actions,
Right.
and the determination to make things right.
And for an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
that might mean owning up to a product defect,
Okay.
apologizing to customers for a service disruption,
Uh-huh.
or even making amends for past practices
Right.
that were harmful or unsustainable.
It's about showing that you're not just interested in protecting your reputation or your bottom line,
Right.
but that you genuinely care about doing what's right,
It is.
even when it's difficult
Even when it's hard.
or costly.
And that kind of authenticity, that
Yeah.
willingness to be vulnerable and admit when you've messed up,
It's hard.
it can actually strengthen your relationships with your customers
It can.
and your team.
Yeah.
It shows that you're human,
Yeah.
that you're not afraid to make mistakes,
Right.
and that you're committed to learning and growing from those experiences.
It's about moving beyond a culture of blame and punishment
right.
and creating a space where people feel safe to experiment, to
Yeah.
take risks,
Yeah,
and to learn from their failures.
to learn and grow.
Because let's face it, that's how innovation happens.
That's how we innovate, right?
I love that perspective.
Yeah,
It's about turning those inevitable stumbles into stepping stones.
it is.
Okay, so we've talked about commitment, generosity, stewardship, and redemption.
Yeah.
Now let's tackle this concept of holiness,
Okay.
which we also briefly touched on in part 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word that's often associated with religious contexts.
Right.
But how does it apply to entrepreneurship?
Why
Is it
so?
just about, like, being a good person?
In Leviticus, holiness is often about setting yourself apart,
Right.
about striving for a higher standard of conduct.
Yeah.
And in the context of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
it's about making sure your business operates with integrity,
Right.
with a focus on doing what's right,
Right.
even when it's not the easiest
Yeah.
or most profitable path.
So it's about more than just following the letter of the law.
It is.
It's about operating from a place of moral conviction,
Yeah,
of doing business in a way that aligns with your deepest values.
exactly.
It's about treating your employees, your customers, your suppliers, and the environment with respect
And fairness.
and fairness.
Yeah.
It's about being honest and transparent in your dealings.
Yes.
It's about going above and beyond
It's about
to ensure the quality of your products or services.
building a business that you can be proud of,
Right.
one that reflects your values and contributes to a better world.
And that brings us back to this idea of legacy.
Yes, holiness in a business context
Okay.
is about creating a legacy that's not just about profits and accolades,
Yeah.
but about the positive impact you've made on the world.
It's about building something that will outlast you,
Right.
something that will continue to make a difference
Mm-hmm.
long after you're gone.
Long after you're gone.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in part 2.
We have.
We've talked about how these principles from Leviticus, commitment, generosity, stewardship, redemption, and holiness,
Yes.
can be translated into concrete actions in the modern business world.
They can.
But there's one more concept from Leviticus that I think is particularly relevant for entrepreneurs in today's world.
All right.
The concept of Jubilee.
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 Interesting.
Remind me what that's all about, how it connects to business.
In Leviticus, the Jubilee year was a time of radical social and economic reset.
Oh, wow.
Every 50 years, debts were forgiven.
Right.
Land was returned to its original owners, and slaves were set free.
It's intense.
It was a recognition that systems can become imbalanced over time, and that sometimes a reset is needed.
That makes sense.
To restore fairness and opportunity for all.
That's such a powerful concept.
It is.
But obviously, we can't just hit a reset button on the entire economy every 50 years.
Right.
How can entrepreneurs apply these principles of Jubilee in a more practical way?
It's about recognizing that unchecked economic growth can lead to inequality and injustice.
So it's about...
And it's about taking action to create a more equitable and sustainable system.
So what would that look like in the business world?
It could mean advocating for policies that support small businesses and entrepreneurs from underrepresented communities.
So kind of leveling the playing field.
It could mean adopting business models that share profits more fairly with employees.
Interesting.
It could mean investing in initiatives that address social problems.
And promote economic justice.
It's about using your platform and your resources to create a more level playing field, to lift others up, and to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Jubilee reminds us that true prosperity isn't just about individual wealth. It's about creating a society where everyone has a chance to succeed.
And that's a vision worth striving for.
It is.
All right, so in part 2 of this deep dive, we've taken these ancient principles from Leviticus.
We have.
And explored how they can be put into action by modern entrepreneurs.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
We've talked about building a culture of commitment, weaving generosity into your operations, treating all your resources with reverence, embracing redemption when you stumble, operating with integrity and holiness, and even considering how the radical concept of Jubilee can inspire us to create a more just and equitable world.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Whew, that's a lot to digest.
It is.
But we're not done yet. In part 3.
We'll tackle some of the more nuanced and challenging aspects of ethical entrepreneurship.
Interesting.
Like navigating conflict, building strong relationships, and finding that sweet spot where your passion and purpose intersect with making a profit and a positive impact on the world.
Sounds good.
So buckle up and get ready for the final leg
All right.
of our Leviticus-inspired journey.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into, of all things, the book of Leviticus.
Who knew?
Who knew we'd find so much to unpack about modern entrepreneurship
I know, right?
in these ancient texts?
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
Hasn't it?
We've talked about unwavering commitment, radical generosity, treating resources as sacred, the power of redemption, and even that wild concept of Jubilee.
Yeah.
And through it all, this idea of holiness in business has been weaving its way through our conversation. But in part 2, we kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger.
We do.
How do we actually live out that holiness
Good question.
in the day-to-day grind of running a business? It feels almost impossible.
It can feel that way.
When you're up against tight deadlines, fierce competition,
Sure.
and the constant pressure to make a profit.
It's definitely a challenge, no doubt about it.
It is.
But I think that's where the real work and the real reward of ethical entrepreneurship lies. It's not about being perfect.
It's not.
It's about striving to make decisions that align with your values, even when it's tough.
So it's like that internal compass we talked about earlier.
Yeah, like that.
Always pointing you back to your true north. Even when the storms of the business world are swirling around you.
Exactly. And sometimes those storms come in the form of conflict.
Conflict.
It's inevitable in
Okay.
any relationship.
It's true.
Whether it's with your business partner, a key employee, or even a customer.
Right.
But how you navigate that conflict
Yeah,
can really make or break your business.
I can see that.
And I think Leviticus offers some surprisingly
Oh, really?
insightful guidance here.
Okay, I'm all ears. How does an ancient text about sacrifices
Right.
and rituals
Well,
help us deal with a disgruntled employee or a contract dispute with the supplier?
think about the core message of Leviticus.
Okay.
It's about seeking atonement,
Mm-hmm.
about restoring harmony, about making things right when they've gone wrong. And that same spirit
Yeah.
can be applied to conflict in a business setting.
So instead of seeing conflict as something to be avoided
Right.
or brushed under the rug,
Right.
we can see it as an opportunity to strengthen relationships
Yeah.
and make things better.
Precisely. It's about approaching conflict
Okay.
with a spirit of understanding,
Mm-hmm.
of seeking to hear the other person's perspective,
Okay.
even if you don't agree with it.
Even if you don't agree.
It's about finding that common ground,
Yeah.
that shared humanity
Right.
that can help bridge the divide.
So it's like remembering that we're all in this together,
Yes.
even when it feels like we're on opposite sides of an issue.
Exactly. And that's especially important in today's world,
Right.
where it's so easy to get caught up
Oh, yeah.
in our own bubble,
In our echo chambers.
to demonize those who disagree with us.
That's true.
But business at its heart is
Yeah.
about relationships.
It is.
And strong relationships are built on trust, respect, and a willingness to work through disagreements.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that,
That do.
especially when they're so passionate about their ideas,
Right.
so invested in their vision.
Yeah.
It can be hard to separate the person from the problem
It can.
and approach conflict with that
Sure.
spirit of understanding you're talking about.
It's definitely a skill that takes practice.
It is.
But I think it starts with cultivating that sense of humility, of recognizing that you don't have all the answers,
Right.
that you might not always be right.
That's a tough one.
It's about being open to hearing other perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
to being willing to compromise.
And maybe even to admitting when you've made a mistake.
Could be.
That vulnerability can be tough,
It can.
especially in the business world,
Yeah.
where there's so much pressure to project an image of strength and confidence.
It's true, but I think there's a growing recognition
Yeah.
that vulnerability is actually a strength,
Okay.
that it allows for
Mm-hmm.
deeper connection
Okay.
and more authentic relationships.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of relationships that build strong businesses.
Right.
Businesses that can weather storms and come out stronger on the other side.
Speaking of strong businesses,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how you tied this idea of holiness to the concept of legacy in
Mhm.
part 2. It's not just about what
Yeah.
you achieve in your lifetime.
It's not just about the here and now. It's about the impact you leave on the world.
Yeah.
The good you do that ripples outward even after you're gone.
It's about making a difference.
Absolutely. And that's where
Right.
finding meaning and purpose
Yeah.
in your work becomes so crucial.
Okay.
Because if you're just chasing profits,
Right.
if you're just building a business for the sake of building a business,
Right.
it's going to be hard to sustain that motivation,
Yeah, you'll burn out,
that passion over the long haul,
especially when things get tough,
especially when things get tough.
which they inevitably will.
Exactly. But when your work is aligned with your values,
Right.
when you feel like you're making a positive contribution to the world,
Yeah.
that's what gets you out of bed in the morning.
That's your why.
That's what keeps you going when the going gets tough.
So it's about finding that sweet spot
Yes.
where your passion intersects with a real need in the world.
And it's about recognizing that
Okay.
you don't have to have all the answers. You
Yeah.
don't have to solve all the world's problems.
That's a relief.
It's about finding your niche, that
Mhm.
unique contribution you can make,
Yeah.
and pouring your heart and soul into it.
And maybe that contribution is creating a product
Yeah.
that solves a specific problem
Right.
for your customers.
Maybe it's providing
Yeah.
meaningful employment opportunities for people in your community.
Right.
Or maybe it's simply
Yeah.
operating your business in a way that's ethical and sustainable.
So many different ways to make a difference.
Exactly. It's about finding your own unique expression
Okay.
of holiness in the business world.
I like that.
It's about building a business
Hmm.
that's not just successful,
Right.
but meaningful.
Yeah.
A business that reflects your values and makes the world a little bit better.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Leviticus,
Mm-hmm.
what's the key takeaway?
I think it's this.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is about more than just profits and growth.
Okay.
It's about building something that matters, something that contributes to a better world.
It's about making a difference.
And that journey starts with looking inward, with examining your values, with cultivating that sense of holiness in everything you do.
And that's what we hope you've gained from this deep dive.
Yeah.
A new perspective on what it means to be an entrepreneur. A deeper understanding of the ethical considerations
Absolutely.
at play in the business world.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little bit of inspiration
A little spark.
to go out and make a positive impact.
Because the world needs
it.
more entrepreneurs who are willing to lead with integrity, who are committed to making a difference, who are building businesses that are not just successful, but truly meaningful.
Thanks for joining us on this unexpected journey
It's been fun.
through the book of Leviticus.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.